As a doctor who has spent over 25 years helping patients balance their blood sugar, I've seen countless fads come and go. Apple cider vinegar? I've always known it had its place. A gentle digestive aid. A folk remedy for indigestion. Maybe a touch of benefit here and there. But in all honesty, I never considered it a serious tool for managing blood glucose. Until I came across the work of Jessie Inchauspé. She's not a doctor, not a pharmaceutical researcher, but a trained biochemist from France who's made it her mission to translate metabolic science into something everyone can understand. And one piece of research she shared caught my eye and didn't let go. 1 tablespoon of vinegar before a meal. Just one. According to the clinical trials she referenced, conducted across multiple countries, that small action alone could reduce the blood sugar spike from a meal by up to 30%, and the insulin response by up to 20%. Now, in the medical world, we don't get excited easily. We're trained to question, to dig deeper. And that's exactly what I did. I went through the references she cited. I read the original studies. Brazil, Japan, the US. The data repeated itself again and again. And I was stunned, because this wasn't just theory. It was real, measurable physiology. And the best part? It didn't require a prescription, a doctor's appointment, or an expensive device. Just a tablespoon of vinegar and a bit of intention before eating. It made me pause. How many of my patients struggling with fatigue, stubborn weight, or glucose crashes could benefit from something so simple? That moment reshaped how I talk to my patients about blood sugar, not just with medication and lab results, but with everyday rituals that are backed by science and easy to sustain. Vinegar wasn't new to me, but its true power was. And thanks to Jessie, I began to look at it not as a condiment, but as a quiet ally in the fight against high blood sugar. The moment I saw the numbers, 30% lower blood sugar spikes, 20% lower insulin response, I needed to understand how vinegar was doing this. The answer lies in something surprisingly elegant, the way vinegar slows digestion. When we eat, especially meals rich in starches or sugars, the body breaks those carbohydrates down into glucose, which quickly enters the bloodstream. That sharp rise in blood glucose is what we call a glucose spike, and it's the very thing that leads to post-meal fatigue, brain fog, cravings, and over time, insulin resistance. Vinegar interrupts that process in a gentle but powerful way. Here's how. When consumed 10 to 15 minutes before a meal, vinegar, especially apple cider vinegar, helps slow gastric emptying, which means your stomach takes longer to release food into the small intestine. That alone buys your body more time to absorb glucose gradually instead of all at once. But that's not all. Vinegar also activates AMPK, a metabolic enzyme often referred to as the master regulator of energy. AMPK improves insulin sensitivity and encourages your cells to use glucose more efficiently. The result? Lower post-meal blood sugar and a calmer insulin response, even if you didn't change a single thing about your meal. This is especially meaningful for those who struggle with blood sugar crashes a few hours after eating, feel tired or mentally sluggish after meals, are managing type 2 diabetes or insulin resistance, want to reduce cravings without giving up their favorite foods. And perhaps most importantly, it's not a gimmick. This has been tested in real-world settings, in studies published in respected journals, and confirmed by countless people, including my own patients. Now let's be clear. Vinegar is not a cure. It won't erase the effects of a poor diet, nor will it replace movement or medications when necessary. But as a simple daily tool, it's surprisingly effective. Sometimes the body doesn't need something drastic. It just needs the right support at the right time. And 1 tablespoon of vinegar might be exactly that. Long before scientists gave vinegar a second glance, ancient cultures were already using it as a daily remedy. In France, where Jessie Inchauspé grew up, vinegar is woven into everyday life. A crisp vinaigrette on every salad, a splash of red wine vinegar in stews. These aren't just culinary traditions. They're subtle forms of metabolic support passed down for generations. In Iran, families ferment their own apple cider vinegar at home and drink it daily as a tonic. In Japan, black rice vinegar has been used for centuries in traditional health rituals. And in the 18th century Europe, vinegar tea was even recommended to patients with early signs of diabetes, long before we understood insulin or blood sugar. These traditions didn't come from randomized clinical trials. They came from observation, repetition, and instinct. People noticed, after vinegar, meals felt lighter, energy stayed stable, hunger didn't roar back an hour later. And now, modern science is catching up, finally able to explain why those traditions worked so well. The beauty of Jessie's work is that she doesn't discard these cultural practices as old wives' tales. She honors them. She takes what generations once knew intuitively and translates it into modern language backed by peer-reviewed studies. For someone like me, who has always respected the wisdom of traditional healing, this matters deeply. We don't need to choose between ancient and modern. We can connect them. And in doing so, we can empower people with both trust and truth. That's why I don't just recommend vinegar because it might help. I recommend it because it stood the test of time, and now it's passed the test of science. And perhaps that's the most powerful kind of medicine there is. Let's be honest. The idea of drinking vinegar doesn't exactly sound pleasant. For many people, just hearing the words vinegar drink brings up memories of sharp smells and burning throats. So when I tell my patients to try it, the first reaction is usually, "You want me to drink what?" But here's the thing. It doesn't have to be harsh. In fact, it can be surprisingly enjoyable, if you do it right. Jessie understood this too. That's why she created beautiful mocktail-style recipes using vinegar, like the Mother Apple Spritzer, to make the habit feel more like a treat than a chore. And I've adopted a similar approach for my own patients. So here's how to do it practically. Take 1 tablespoon, about 15 milliliters, of apple cider vinegar, the kind that's raw and unfiltered with the mother still intact. This is where the beneficial enzymes and bacteria live. Mix it into a tall glass of water, still or sparkling, whichever you prefer. I often recommend adding a few drops of lemon juice or a dash of cinnamon to soften the taste and add antioxidant support. Drink it about 10 to 15 minutes before your main meal. That's when the effect on blood sugar seems to be strongest. But don't worry, if you forget, drinking it during or even right after the meal can still help. Want to protect your teeth? Use a straw. The acidity of vinegar can erode enamel over time, so this is a small precaution with big benefits. Now, what kind of vinegar should you use? Apple cider vinegar is the most popular for good reason, but you can also use white wine vinegar, red wine vinegar, rice vinegar, even herbal-infused vinegars. Avoid sugary balsamic glazes or syrupy vinegars. Those defeat the purpose. The beauty of this ritual is in its simplicity. No need to track macros or weigh your food. Just one small habit once a day. And over time, that small habit becomes something powerful. Something that begins to change the way your body responds to every bite you take. What happens when you stabilize your blood sugar just once? You might think it's no big deal. 1 tablespoon of vinegar, 1 calmer glucose response. That's it, right? But here's what I've learned over years of working with patients. Even a small shift in blood sugar can trigger a chain reaction that affects everything. Your energy, your mood, your decisions, your cravings, even your sleep. And that's why vinegar, though simple, is never just vinegar. Let's walk through a typical afternoon without blood sugar control. You have lunch, maybe pasta or white rice or even something sweet. Within an hour or two, your glucose spikes, then crashes. You feel tired. Your brain fogs. You reach for coffee, or worse, another sugary snack. That starts another spike, and another crash. By evening, you're exhausted, irritable, and wondering why you don't feel like yourself anymore. Now, imagine the same meal, but this time, you took 1 tablespoon of vinegar 15 minutes before eating. The glucose spike? Smaller. The crash? Milder, if it even happens at all. You finish your meal and feel fine. You don't need that 3 p.m. cookie. You stay focused through the afternoon. You have the energy to go for that walk after work. You eat better at dinner, you sleep better that night. One change creates many. That's the ripple effect Jessie talks about, and I've seen it again and again in my clinic. Vinegar is just one of what she calls glucose hacks. Simple, doable actions that gently shift the metabolic tide in your favor. No restriction, no guilt, just smarter choices, stacked one on top of the other until they become a way of life. I've always told my patients, don't aim for perfection. Aim for progress you can repeat. And this is progress you can repeat. You don't have to overhaul your entire diet today. You don't have to swear off bread or sugar or comfort food forever. Start with something small. Start with 1 tablespoon. Let your body feel what it's like to stay steady, for once. And from there, everything else gets easier. Sometimes the most powerful revolutions begin with something small. Not a medication, not a strict diet plan, not a complete lifestyle overhaul, just a single tablespoon of vinegar, and the willingness to pay attention. That's what Jessie Inchauspé reminded me. She didn't just share data, she shared a way to make science feel human again, to make blood sugar something we could understand, manage, and even improve, without fear or restriction. And in doing so, she invited us all into a quiet revolution, one where we stop blaming ourselves for fatigue, cravings, or lack of motivation. One where we stop chasing willpower and start working with our biology. One where we treat our bodies with curiosity instead of judgment. In this revolution, there are no forbidden foods, no punishments, just practical choices, gentle hacks, small steps taken consistently. Vinegar is just one of them, but it's a beautiful place to begin, because when someone tries this just once, they often feel the shift, the steadiness, the calm. And for many of my patients, that experience opens the door to deeper healing. So, no, it's not about vinegar alone. It's about reclaiming agency, about knowing that your blood sugar, your energy, your health are not out of your control. You can influence them with one habit, one glass, one moment of care, and from there, a ripple begins. If you've been struggling, if you've felt stuck, or tired, or overwhelmed, try this, just once, just today. Take that tablespoon, take that breath. Let your body feel what steady truly means, and maybe, just maybe, this small act could change everything.